Guitar Business Radio is the podcast for the business of guitar, where you'll always get no reviews, no demos, and no idle chatter. From players to CEOs and in between. If you have a professional or business connection to the world of guitar, this show is your window to insight and information you won't get anywhere else. I'm Jeffrey D. Brown, and I approve this message. So let's get to it. From Guitar Business Media, welcome to the 44th episode of GBR, where you'll always get diversity in both guests and topics. And speaking of which, our special guest on today's show is a busy Nashville-based guitarist who has diversified his own career in a way that has allowed him to pursue his work on his own terms. There's some good lessons to be learned from our interview today, and that will be here almost immediately, if not sooner. Now, I just want to cover some of the upcoming shows and activities on GBR. As mentioned previously, our holiday show, our special holiday show, will be out later in the month, and we'll be featuring many of our previous guests on the show, which should be a lot of fun and a meaningful program, so you can anticipate that. Also, we will be at the Winter NAMM show in Anaheim from January 24th through the 27th, and expect to be doing some floor interviews for our show. So if you see the GBR logo on something I'm wearing or carrying, you'll know that's probably me, unless it's somebody else wearing a GBR cap. Then it could be confusing, but I'm sure I'll be seeing some of you there and looking forward to it. Preceding the NAMM show, however, in early January leading up to it, we'll be doing some previews. And keep in mind, I said previews, not reviews, because as you know, we do no reviews or demos and engage in no idle chatter. But we will be talking to some of our friends about what they'll be doing at NAMM to support their business, and that should be very interesting to a lot of you. And finally, we're always on the lookout for great players and industry people to come on the show and talk to us. And you know, at this point, virtually all our guests come to us as referrals from other guests and friends of the show. So if you know someone you think ought to be on GBR, well, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. And while you are pondering that notion, I think we better move on to something completely different. Well, Guthrie Trapp has been a busy working guitar player in Nashville for the last 17 years. He's built a solid, highly acclaimed career, in part by creating a diversified array of income streams that has allowed him to pursue his musical endeavors as he sees fit. Over the years, he's worked with many of the greats, including Patty Loveless, Jerry Douglas, John Oates, Trisha Yearwood, Vince Gill, and so many others. He has a very interesting story to tell, so let's just hear it directly from him as Guthrie Trapp joins us right here and right now. Hey, Guthrie, it's great to have you on the show with us today. Welcome to GBR. You're down in Nashville, so all the way across the country. Great to have you here.
Yeah. Hey, man. Jeffrey, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's get started. And I always kind of start off the same way. I always ask everybody a little bit about their historical significance, as we say. And I want to ask you, as you kind of look back at your earlier part of your life, recall what things that happened that were the most impactful and most meaningful in terms of getting you to where you are today. And everybody's got something and it's always different. How about you?
Well, yeah, for me, since I was born and raised down on the Gulf Coast, I'm an only child. My mom and dad, I've been around music even before I was born. I mean, they were going to music festivals, and my uncle was a self-taught musician, and all of our friends and families on the Gulf Coast were all artists and musicians. And so I've been around it since I was born, and even, in the womb. I mean, they were going to festivals and stuff. And when I was a kid, I don't ever really remember having a babysitter that often. I mean, anytime there was an event, I was always with, and around a lot of live music, a lot of holidays revolved around music, large groups of people playing bluegrass and folk music and some country stuff, old country music and stuff, people sitting around playing and singing. And it was a really, really great way to grow up and learning how to play music, different than growing up playing in a rock and roll band or something like that, because with the bluegrass kind of background, and going to bluegrass festivals and stuff like that, and all these we called them picking parties back then down there. You know? And what it would be is you'd have the inner circle of the guys that were really, really hot players. You know, they would be playing in the tight circle, and then as the circle went farther and farther out to the perimeter, you'd have guys that could play a little bit, or maybe some kids that were just learning how to strum or something like that. So it was just really kind of, for lack of a better term, a real organic way to learn how to play music, and not only learn how to play it, but the fact that it's been in my body since I was born, because, you know, you're hearing it, you're feeling it, it's getting in a way that's not just putting your hands on the fingerboard. It's actually kind of becoming part of your makeup, you know. I mean, I think that is a huge part of it, because you have this internal kind of thing that knows what it's supposed to feel and sound like before you ever put your hands on an instrument, you know.
Sure, that helps.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a pretty big part of my background for sure.
So, as you were growing up, I don't know, in school, high school, or whatnot, were you playing? Were you doing anything at that time? When did you really start to kind of get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started getting into I hung out with my dad's younger brother a lot, my uncle, and he was, like I said, he was a self-taught musician from the time he was young also. And so there was always instruments around. His band would rehearse. I'd hang out with those guys, and when they would take a break, I'd pick up the guitars and you know, turn on the amps and start messing around on stuff. So I started playing the harmonica when I was about 7 years old, and started picking out notes on that and playing the blues and stuff like that. And then as I got older, you know, a couple years later, started picking up the guitar around, you know, probably 9 or 10 years old. And then by the time I was 13 or so, I had started taking it pretty serious, where I was learning off a lot of VHS instructional videos with like Tony Rice, Sam Bush, Pat Flynn, Danny Gatton, you know, all these guys. And then, you know, started, you know, by that time I was kind of, you know, able to pick stuff up pretty quick. My right hand was getting developed, you know, by playing the bluegrass flat picking style, you know, the fiddle tunes and stuff. And then eventually, you know, a couple years after that, I picked up the mandolin, learned how to play the mandolin. And then that just evolved from there. I joined my first band with these older guys down there playing bluegrass and some country music when I was around 13 or so. And then, let's see, from there, it just kept going. You know, the thing about school, I was a terrible student. I knew what I wanted to do from when I was really young. I wanted to be a musician. And I think, you know, subconsciously, I just knew that school wasn't for me. I was not interested in math, science, English, or anything like that. And, you know, tried homeschooling for a little bit, ended up going back to school, quit school 2 weeks into the 10th grade and never went back. And I've been playing music ever since.
Well, it's worked out, though.
It's worked out, yeah, for sure. And I don't regret 1 second of it. I mean, that's just what I needed to do. I needed to get out of that environment and continue to learn how to play music. And that's what I did. And, you know, my family's amazing and had tons of support from them. My mom and dad, both extremely intelligent people, but they just really didn't know what to do with me. You know, I had talent when I was young and school wasn't happening. So they let me just come out. I mean, I was making good money playing every night on the Gulf Coast for years and years and years as a teenager. And when I was, you know, even my, you know, early 20s. But when I moved to Nashville, I think I was 22 or 23 when I moved here. And I'm about to be 40 in February. So at this point, I've been doing it a long time, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like it. So let's talk a little bit about, you made the move to Nashville. Let's talk about your ability to pay the rent and work, and what were you doing? How were you getting by?
Well, I had saved some money from all the years of playing on the Gulf, and my dad always taught me to be an aggressive saver, which probably doesn't hurt being you know, when you're a young musician. So
yeah,
but anyway, so when I moved to Nashville, you know, part of my thing too is I've never really had a plan. you know, as far as, okay, I'm going to move to Nashville, and if in 3 years I'm not doing this, I'm going to do this. I never had any goals or plans. I just wanted to play music and go where the work was and go where the good music was. I don't like to do things that I don't like to do.
Yeah, that's a good strategy.
And, you know, I mean, as far as that goes, I tell young people too, you know, I said there's a couple different ways you can look at it. You can either pursue a music career and have something to fall back on. And if you do, you probably will. Or you can just come and jump in with both feet and figure out a way to make it work. And that's why that there's not a whole lot of people doing this at a very high level to where they can actually make a living at it, because it's not easy. You have to be good. You have to be tenacious, and you have to have this inside of you. Art and music are things that you have to, there's a power of those things inside that, I call it lifers. We're lifers. We're going to do this until the day we die. There is no other plan. There is no other passion. There's no other thing. This is what we do. And you have to move to a town like Nashville to be able to keep that fire burning. You have to have, after being here for 17 years, I'm still excited to be here. There's still things I haven't done. There's no ceiling that you cap off at. It keeps going. You can take your career as far as you want to go. I can learn from guys here that I'd never be able to learn from in any other part of the country. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this town. So when I moved here, the first thing I did was I knew of this band on Lower Broadway that's kind of like the Gunslinger band down there. That Don Kelly's been down there for years and years and years. All these great guitar players came through his band. Kind of gives you a lot of street cred out of the gate, right? So when I came to Nashville, I went down there and hung out at Roberts and met those guys. Told them, hey, if you ever need a sub, let me know. I was in a band similar to this on the Gulf Coast, playing a lot of roots music and Telecaster guitar playing, and knew how to play all those styles. And then Don would never let me get up to sit in. I went down there for probably a month and a half or 2 months. Every time they played, met, talked to the guys, got to know them. And then finally we ran into a mutual friend on the street, and the guy got me to sit in, or I told Don he needed to let me sit in. So finally he said, look, come down next weekend, bring your favorite guitar, and we'll let you get up and play a couple songs. So I did, and did that a couple times. And then Don said, look, the guy that's playing in this band's leaving. It was Johnny Highland.
Oh, jeez.
he said, he goes, he's leaving. So if you want this gig, you can have it. And I said, of course.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So Don is like the godfather of Broadway. He's had Brent Mason, Red Volkart, J.D. Simo, Johnny Highland, Daniel Donato. Those younger guys came after me, but I came in right after Johnny and did that gig for 4 years with Johnny Cash's bass player and a bunch of other guys. I mean, it was a stellar band. But so that was like kind of a springboard for me. I was known as like the new gunslinger on the street. And then from that gig, I started touring and playing on Patty Loveless records because of some friends of mine here that I knew through, after getting that gig, Kenny Vaughn and guys like that, put a good word in for me, got the Patty Loveless gig. Then I started working with Jerry Douglas through Sam Bush, who's a friend of mine. He turned me on to Jerry. I got that phone call one day, toured with him for 6 or 7 years, worked for 6 or 7 years with Patty on and off, played on a couple of Jerry's records. And then from that, I started getting session work. People started calling me, asking me for lessons. And then now, after all that, I've known John Oates for 10 years, been playing with him on all, everything he does as a solo artist and his records. I do all that.
And you're working with him currently, are you?
Working with him currently. I've done a couple records on my own. I've started a couple schools here in Nashville. And I want to talk about some of those things in a little bit more. It's been pretty incredible. Yeah, it's been an amazing career. And even, now, turning 40 next month, I'm in a place where I'm kind of looking back on it all as a chapter of my life going, hey man, you know what, up to now, it's been pretty damn good. I've been able to buy multiple pieces of property here in Nashville. I've got some rental properties, and I mean, life is good, Well, and you got a lot ahead of you at 40, because I'm looking back when I was 40 and, I'm not sure that I saw it the same way, but we got a long ways to go. Well, I hope so.
I see that as kind of being young, but, I'm thinking myself as kind of a middle-aged guy, so
yeah, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the milestones and some of the challenges along the way, because we all learn from that stuff. I know our listeners really get a lot out of both the pluses and the minuses, because a lot of times people hear solutions, say, well, that applies to me. I went through something like that. So was there anything along the way in those 17 years that you would consider, and you've talked a little bit about some of the milestones already, different groups and whatnot, were there any, significant challenges that you ran into that you dealt with and got past? Anything you can think of?
Yeah. Nothing that stands out that was really.
And again, we're talking mostly about business stuff. I don't care about your personal life or those kinds of things. If you have a divorce or some or other kind of a thing like that, not a big deal.
I thought you guys cared.
Well, I do personally, but
you just want all the dirt, all the business dirt.
No, this is not, and this is not a political show, so there's no gotcha questions here.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into my personal life or politics. Don't worry.
And we don't. This is an apolitical environment here, a politics-free zone, and there aren't many.
Although since you're in Newport Beach, California, and you have a show called Guitar Business Radio, I'm sure our politics would line up pretty well. But anyway, I will say this. Has there been some hard times? Yeah, absolutely. I've never been married. I don't have any kids. I live in this house over here by myself, and for the most part, I love it. But there's been I've had some lonely times here in Nashville and all that stuff, like everybody else in life at some point. But as far as the career stuff goes, this is, and it's hard to kind of answer this question without getting a little personal. Hey man, look, this business is not for the faint of heart.
It isn't. It isn't.
Talking about doing this for, 30 years and get up every day and want to keep doing it. Who can say they do that, But there's been, I will say this, I've been very lucky, and I haven't had to ever really work that hard at anything. Everything's kind of come natural for me. The phone's always rang. I've always gone from one opportunity to the next pretty seamlessly. I've never been broke. Everything has always worked out pretty well in my favor. A lot of people look at me as being one of the luckiest guys in town, but I also have friends that I really respect that also think I'm one of the most talented guys in town because of not being a schooled musician. Everything that I've learned in my life, I've learned by ear and by feel. So I'm kind of a little bit unique, if I can say that without sounding arrogant. But no. I'm just being honest. And trust me, I know my strengths and weaknesses as well as anybody. I'm very realistic when it comes to that. And that's part of the challenge leading up to what I'm about to say is some of the challenges that I deal with are just the fact that I'm in a really niche market. I'm a guitar player. I'm not a singer. I don't write lyrics. I'm in the guitar world. So I've been very opportunistic, if that's the word, here in town. I've gotten involved in radio shows. I've hosted, variety shows at places here in Nashville. I've started schools. I've gotten involved in being a landlord and just things that come my way that are good opportunities. I say yes. I know what I want to do. I know what I don't want to do. So, I say no quite frequently also. But if an opportunity comes along and I have to jump out of my comfort zone just a little bit, I do it, and I go, hey, man, this is another iron in the fire. This could, let's see where this goes. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time or energy on stuff. But if something feels right, I'm going to jump in and do it and see where it goes. And a lot of those things have turned out to be either great income streams, giving back to the community, helping some kids, with music. All that stuff to me as I get older, it's important and it's related to music. So, there's a lot of guys I think that move to town that just want to get up every day and go play their guitar somewhere. Well, that's great, but unless you join a really good band or you become one of the top session guys, you're not going to make that much money.
Yeah, that's true.
And unfortunately, we have to have money. And in a town like Nashville that's growing rapidly, it's expensive to live here. If you want to eat and drink good, you're going to have to go spend some money. I mean, it's just not a place that's like a hillbilly town like it was in the 50s anymore, you know? So all those things come into play, and I'm motivated to make a good living, but I'm not motivated solely by money. I do want to kind of ride the fence on keeping my artistic integrity. But like I said, if an opportunity comes along, I usually jump in and see, you know, what we can do. I consider myself a pretty good networker. I like to get out the fact that I am not married or have a family. I'm pretty much out, you know, 5 nights a week. I like to go out and hear live music. I like to go support my friends. And that's a big part of keeping your career going. If people don't see you and you go dark in a town like this, you're not going to get called. I mean, you know, I like to keep my face and name kind of floating around pretty regularly. I see guys out and I go, hey, man, I haven't seen that guy in a long time. Let's call him, you know. It
sounds to me like you've diversified a bit. You're doing things that give you some balance so that if one thing ebbs a little bit, the other is flowing. And, you know, that's always helpful, especially as you describe the kind of business that you're in. And probably that's good advice for more people in order to not have those severe lows that can come along from just trying to do that one thing. And
at the end of the day, you know, I do want to play music. I want to make music. I want to be in the studio. I want to be on stage. I want to be making music in some way, but these other things have enabled me to really, really be able to pick and choose what I want to do. And the other thing about it is all that could fall apart tomorrow, you know? Yeah. So you really have to kind of be aware that, hey, you know, even though you're in business for yourself, and I don't technically have a boss. I mean, John Oates could call up and go, hey man, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm moving to Hawaii. See ya. Okay. Well, then you're back to, you know what I'd do? The next day I'd wake up and I'd figure something else out because that's what I've always done.
Yeah.
But you know, those kind of things, it can be a little of a slippery slope if you're playing with if you put all your eggs in one basket, then you're kind of in trouble in this business, you know, because things will change. And like I said, being in such a niche market where, you know, I've got a good presence in the guitar world. People know my name around the country and some around the world. But you know, you're still you're not going to sell enough records to be able to buy a house. You know, I mean,
that's right. That business has changed a lot, and it never was the kind of thing that a lot of people were taking advantage of. It was always a very small number, and that's everything is different.
And hey, man, as we sit here and talk about this, I mean, I'm you know, the first thing I thought about when I woke up this morning was, you know, I'm getting in this education thing is really becoming a good income stream, whether I do private lessons at my house, Skype lessons for people around the world, or pointing them to the direction of Artist Works. The education thing has become a pretty substantial pie slice of my income between sessions, lessons, the touring with Oates or a couple other songwriters I work with. I mean, all that stuff together, and the rental property I have, between all those things, I'm sitting pretty good. You know, I don't have to worry about it. But like I said, I mean, the perfect example is we can talk about all the stuff that I've done in the past, but I'm trying to look at the future too and go, okay, how can I build this lesson thing? What do I need? You know, what do I need to do to really take this to the next level, to where maybe one day in the future, I could have my own, maybe a discussion platform versus, you know, lessons and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm trying to get, because I love film and video also, and I love documentary style stuff. So I'm trying to kind of get more into that world. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff I want to do in the future, you know.
Well, it sounds like I said before, a lot of diversity there, and it's a patchwork. A lot of people work that way, and I would say that, you know, in my own career, I spent a lot of years working for big media companies. You know, about 12 years ago, I went back on my own and built this organization, but this organization, just like you, operates on kind of a patchwork of different things that, you know, are either related or not related, that are able to kind of weather certain trends. One isn't as strong as the other one picks up. So, and I know a lot of people that do that. I mean, people work at home now. They work at, at different kinds of things. They have 3 or 4 gigs at one time that they're doing. So that's probably, getting to be pretty much the mainstream of the way a lot of people work. Certainly the majority still get up and go to a place to work. I haven't done that in quite a while, which is fine. I've always kind of been an entrepreneurial guy, although I did spend probably 20 years of my career working for others. But it's all part of it. It's all part of the R&D that, we base everything.
And it also keeps you from getting burned out too. If you have 5 or 6 different things that you're focusing on and picking and drawing from, like, if I'm getting ready to go out and tour with Oates for a couple of weeks, that takes me out of, sitting at home and teaching lessons for 3 days or whatever. I mean, right when you get to where you're about to be burned out on one thing, one of the other things, happens for a period of time to where you can get away from it and get into another mindset of touring and playing live or whatever. And then by the time the lessons roll back around, you're kind of ready for that. So it's a revolving door kind of thing. I mean, that keeps me from getting burned out on just focusing on one thing,
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of just specific things in no particular order.
Sure.
You've done some of your own records. I've listened to, I think, the most recent one, which is called
Life After Dark.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Some great stuff on there, and certainly encourage people who like to listen to guitar playing to catch that.
Thank you.
Great work.
Some good singing on there too.
But it's not you, though.
Not me. No. I had to call in some friends for that one.
Let me ask you a little bit about how those projects came about and how they were produced and what that has done for you in terms of your career.
Well, I'll say this. These days, for somebody like me, producing a hard copy record CD like that, it's basically like a business card. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I made the money back on the record and did a pledge music campaign and all that kind of stuff, which it was kind of an experiment to see how dedicated my fans really were. If I can even call them fans. I mean, that sounds a little pretentious, but people that have supported me, Mm-hmm. And
now, that was a crowdfunding.
That was a crowdfunding thing, yeah. And
how did that work? Was that for the first or second record?
That was for the second one. Mm-hmm. Because my social...
Yeah, lots of people are doing that. Tell us a little bit about that, how that worked.
Well, the reason I did that was because my social media has grown pretty significantly since the first record, which I think the first one I did in 2012. So there was a pretty big gap between the two. And the reason I did the first one was almost just out of, A, I had some song ideas that I thought were strong enough to be able to record, that were worthy of being recorded. And then B, I just needed to get something out there. I needed to get a project out there. I mean, think about how many studio musicians, which I'm half studio, half everything else. But think about the guys that have sat in studios their whole lives, and the only thing that you're going to hear them play is them on other people's music. They've never done a record.
Right.
I would love to hear some of those guys do their own records. So I thought about that. Like, it was time to do something. I did the first project. And then it was definitely, long overdue to do the second one. So I thought, hey, I've got a pretty significant social media following for where I'm at and what I'm doing. I said, let's see if we can, do this pledge music thing. So I have a girl that runs my social media and digital online promotions and all that stuff. So she set it all up for me, and we set a goal. And we ended up reaching it. It was a kind of a nail-biting experience.
Yeah, I know that.
but it worked, and I was able to kind of, fund the record doing that. And but yeah, it's kind of like a business card these days. I mean, I think you're kind of, just letting people know that you're still around and what you're doing. And it was a little bit, this last record was a little bit of a snapshot of the past chapter of the first chapter of all this, So I went back and recorded some acoustic music, some bluegrass kind of sounding stuff. I recorded an old Hank Williams Hank Williams Sr. song for my mother, and just got kind of tapped into my roots a little bit. There's some original guitar music on there, some kind of fusion of my original style stuff. There's a bunch of different stuff on there, but that's kind of the scoop on that a little bit, I guess.
But has that has that helped? Has there been a tangible benefit that you can say you have derived from it since you put it out?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't made a lot of money on that record.
Sure, that's understandable. But it's kind of like me doing the podcast.
Yeah,
we have another business. We have a PR business. We have some other things, and we do. And this is a way for me to do something I really love doing and started off my career doing. And but it's very much the same kind of thing. It does help me reach a lot of people, but I'm also making a lot of friends along the way, and
absolutely,
and hopefully doing some good stuff. Helping people.
Well, and the bottom line of all of it really is, like I think you would agree. I hope people are just enjoying it, which they are. And I've gotten some great feedback on it, of course, and all that. I will, from getting more onto the business side of things, I will say one of the smartest things I did was I did hire a publicist to help promote this record. And I'm not touring under my own name. So I'm running everything, all this stuff I'm running basically off social media and promoting stuff on there. So, I hired her. She's fantastic. And we did that for a couple months. She got some great articles in all the, obvious magazines, Vintage Guitar Player, all that stuff. So that was money well spent. I mean, it's expensive to have a publicist, and I can't keep one on retainer for 12 months at a time. But if you hire one to do a specific project like that, and I'm not saying that would be effective for everybody. If you're, a guitar player in Des Moines, Iowa, then I would not say spend 10 or 15 grand to promote your record if you're never going to leave your hometown. But if you're kind of in the game a little bit and you have a little street cred, I'd say, to take it to the next level, so to speak, you might want to spend 5 or 10 grand on a publicist and get your record out there a little bit, because there will be it will generate work in some way. I mean,
Sure. It's advertising. It's like anything else. I mean, it's you could look at it a lot of different ways, but it does serve a good business purpose, and that's of course what we want to talk about.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the education side, and of course, I know you through Artist Works and through Patricia Butler, who has been on the show, and some of the other people involved there, and. You've been doing that for a while, and you've expanded out so that you're not, you're working on maybe more than one education stage at the same time.
Right.
But has that panned out for you, and has that helped you to develop that part of your, say, business to some degree?
Yeah, I would say that I'd say it's definitely panned out and is continuing to pan out. We're faced with challenges of how to market it properly, and I'll take that back. Not market it properly, but just market it in a way to where the numbers are growing. I mean, with a subscription-based thing, of course, that's the name of the game. So, I think it's at a really good spot for me now, but in the next couple of years, I think it'll double or triple. I mean, it'll be great. I mean, the more numbers, the more numbers. So.
And that translates into usually what I think a monetary benefit of some kind, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, totally. That's what I mean. So the thing about it with Artist Works is, I'll say this, they run that company it's a tight ship over there. They know what they want. The bar is raised really high. Everybody that works there they're friends of mine now, and they're just great people. I mean, I just hung with Patricia here in Nashville not too long ago, and we hardly talked about business at all. She was on a trip with a friend just to catch up. And of course we ended up talking about, business a little bit because it's hard not to, but
yeah, for sure.
What do they say? A career's with you 24 hours a day, and a job you want to get away from as soon as you get off at 5. But so hard not to go there with her, but had a great hang. They're just great people. And I think they're truly they are, to me, they're the best company that's doing what they do. I mean, they ask a lot from their artists. I mean, we, as an instructor, I sent drafts after drafts after drafts to them and revised this thing to where there's no gaps in it as far as the curriculum, and filmed lessons, 300 lessons for 7 days, and painstakingly went through and just made it sure everything was top notch. And that's what they do. So to me, just a great company. They care about their students. And they also have just a great, great roster of instructors: Brian Sutton, Nathan East, Martin Taylor, Paul Gilbert, myself, and then a ton of great bluegrass musicians who I've been listening to forever: Mike Marshall, Daryl Anger, all these great guys. So when I saw those names, I knew that the company had a lot of integrity, because those guys wouldn't be involved if they didn't, So The Artist Works thing's great, man. I love it, and it continues to grow. So nothing but good things to say about that.
Let's talk a little bit about, I guess you could say, the future. We always like to kind of get a little perspective on things, and I guess the first part of the question is kind of sort of the bigger picture view of it. From your standpoint, how do you sort of assess the business for guys like you right now, in terms of what the opportunities or challenges might be going down the road? Do you have any sense of where anything's going or what's happening that might be good or not so good?
I'll tell you honestly, my honest opinion, this is what I see being a problem. Coming from somebody that's an instrumentalist and that worked their whole life to be able to play their instrument, I see that the young crew of people these days, there's not much of their attention span is not what it used to be. I mean, with everything now that's so social media driven and instantaneous, people are becoming Instagram stars for basically no reason. I think that's a problem. I mean, people, I don't see a lot of people going out and slugging it out in bars and playing, music festivals and stuff like that, like we used to do, and they just want to get on YouTube, learn what they can, and then everybody wants to be an Instagram star. And I see it with teaching too. I mean, how do I say this? The attention span and the want to learn and really get inside your instrument. I see that not being as important as it used to be. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Well, it does, because I hear that from other people. I mean, we have, there's a lot of ways for people to make music today that don't emphasize actually playing the instrument, right?
Yeah, I think that, and like I said, it's kind of being a niche based thing where I look at jazz and bluegrass players and guys like that as being like the most technically proficient on their instruments. You have to be able to play fast and clean and soulful and everything. You have to have all those things intact. And these days it's more about, you wouldn't believe how many people here in Nashville look like they dress and look like rock stars. But if you ask them to sit down and play a song, they can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's getting so diluted. Music is not, I just wish the importance of being really great was still a thing, and I think what people think is good these days, they're not listening to enough old music and doing the history. I mean, I love a lot of new music. I love all kinds of music. There's pop music I like, there's dance music I like, I listen to everything, but it comes down to one thing. It's got to be good. And these days I think it's hard for people to understand the difference between good, great, and really, truly exceptional music. Partly because as musicians, we're looking at it through a microscope, and we're going to be able to tell you, in our opinion, who is, really got it going on versus, some people that might not. But I don't know. I mean, that's always something I've struggled with, especially in a city like Nashville, where I see the most talented people here struggle, and the least talented people here are the ones that are making millions of dollars,
Wow. Well, that's an observation for you. Now, let me ask you, let's turn the tide a little bit toward Guthrie Trapp. How do you see the future for you? I know we've talked about a few things here and there, but, and again, I'm a big believer in the here and now. Can't spend a lot of time dwelling on the past. I mean, you can get some R&D out of it, and there's great memories of good things that happen, but the other side of it, but you and I both probably know people that lament a lot. And then there's the other side of it where we're worried about the future and really concerned about things that are probably never going to happen. And in the midst of doing all that, we miss the only thing we really have, which is the here and now. Right now is what we really have. And we can, and I say, I talk a lot about destinations and, keeping your eye on those, but also keeping all the options open on how you're going to get there, because a lot of times we just set up expectations or set up paths that are very narrow. And if those things wash out, we're in trouble. So it's important to have that view, in my opinion, that, you stay focused on generally where you're going, but know that you can probably get there a lot of different ways, and you got to be open to that. Otherwise, you're going to miss it. Like you said, opportunities come along, and if you're really closed off and you don't allow yourself to dabble one way or the other, you're missing it.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I will say that, we live in a society that's all about work, make money. To be successful, you have to have a giant house in the hip neighborhood. You have to be driving a Maserati or whatever. And which, hey, man, do I like to have nice things? Absolutely. I like to drive a nice car. I like to have my nice new clean house here. Yeah, I love all those things. But I just got back from Italy. I was over there for about a month on truly a vacation. I went to Ireland and Italy, and
nice.
It's a little different culture over there, man. Those people are taking time to relax. They eat lunch. It takes 2.5 hours for them to eat lunch. They're not running in and inhaling a sandwich and then running right back to work. They're taking some time over there to really enjoy their lives, and they're passionate about it. They're beautiful people. Ireland's the same way. A lot of other cultures they're not so driven to work and attain as much as they can, and then die. That's right. No way. That's no way to live. So the older I get, I'm starting to think more about that stuff. And I'm very career driven. I love trying to climb the ladder of my career and keep moving forward. I mean, and keep the momentum going. I mean, we have to survive also. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I mean, it is we are in a culture where it's work. And every once in a while, you just got to stop and go, hey, man, look back and go, I've done pretty good. Nothing I've worried about has really ever happened.
Yeah, and that's true. That is absolutely true. And a lot of us, it took me a long time to recognize that. And, we're kind of programmed. So a lot of time those, I don't know if you call them demons, but those little things that kind of come out and want to sort of push you toward a little bit of worry and anxiety and those kinds of things. And that isn't going to change anything.
And those thoughts are always going to come up, and you just have to grab them quick and shut them down, and that's you can exactly do that. Right. We all have the power of doing that daily. I mean, hey, trust me, man. And I just shut it down and go, hey, man, what's that bad? I mean, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'm able to make a living playing music. I don't work for anybody else. There's no stress. But I will say this, moving forward, I have no clue what I'm going to do moving forward. I have no idea what I'm going to do, and I never have. And that's part of the fun, and that's part of the beauty of it. I don't really want to know, because up until now, so many great things have happened for whatever reason that, there's no way I would try to change anything at this point,
Well, you could probably say, and I've told this to people, that we can have very broad general destinations, and it might be,
right,
I want to have fun. I want to love what I do. I want to get up every morning and just look forward to doing what I'm going to do. That's a destination, and you're keeping all the options open. So
exactly,
I think that's a perfect way to approach it.
It's funny you say that, because I've said that very same thing to a lot of young kids. I tell them, look, it's very important and healthy, I think, to have to look way out, in front of everything as your life, as just a general outlook on your life, and go, yeah, this is what I kind of see myself doing. I'd like to keep doing what I'm doing and just see it grow. But I wouldn't have any hard, fast goals that you're going to be disappointed if you don't hit those. So if you just steer the ship in the right general direction, it's going to could be a slow process getting there, and it's not going to happen overnight, but at least you're not, going in the wrong direction. And then all the little things that might divert you on the way there, those are what you're going to learn. You're going to learn from those. You're going to figure it out. But as long as you're not doing something, I see so many musicians and artists here that are chasing something just for success or just to try to, for all those other reasons other than it's like, hey man, who are you and what do you really want to do? What do you love? What's going to make you original? What's going to set you apart from everybody else that is chasing that same thing? So many young musicians come out here from LA, and a lot of little young girls that are 25 years old, they'll come out and go, oh yeah, well, when I was in LA, I was a pop artist, and now I'm in Nashville and I'm a country artist. It's like, well, no, who are you as an artist? Who do you see yourself being? What do you want to say as an artist? You can't. The city you live in doesn't determine who you are as an artist, so you they have to figure all that stuff out, and if they chase that for too long, they're going to get burned out and they're going to be disappointed and they're going to leave and they're going to be, doing, selling, something somewhere. But you gotta know what you want to do. You got to be able to follow. You really do have to follow your heart. If you're a bluegrass banjo player and that's your passion and that's what you want to do, then hey man, that's what you need to be doing. I learned pretty quick in Nashville that I was not a great pop country musician. I don't like that music. I'm not good at it. And I don't chase that. I don't chase that world. So the fact that I've just kind of followed what I consider to be good music, what moves me as a musician, I've always ended up where I belong,
Perfect.
To me, that's a huge lesson.
And I think that's a great point for us to leave on. I always like to leave on a real positive note. And I think we've had a lot of that today, and you've shared a lot of things that I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of, and that's a lot of lots.
Good.
But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us, and I know we can get together another time down the road and talk about some other stuff. But in the meantime, I want to wish you a real great holiday season coming up, and look forward to talking with you in the future.
Thank you, Jeffrey. My pleasure, man. And keep me posted. I can't wait to hear it.
Great. Thanks.
All right, buddy.
So what did you think of the interview with Guthrie Trapp? We always want to hear from you, and you can do that easily through our contact page or on the episode page on our website at guitarbusinessradio.com, or on Facebook and Twitter at Guitar Business, or email us directly at contact@guitarbusinessradio.com. And as you know, if none of that works for you, just call us on the GBR hotline at 888-777-2404. You can do that right now if you like, or later. So I thought this was a very engaging interview, and we got into a lot of the details this show is known for. We sometimes refer to it as the inside baseball of the guitar world, but that's what we're after. And by doing that, we're able to bring you the kinds of interviews that have a lot of substance and underlying lessons that you can usually take away from it. Obviously, one of the most important lessons I've already mentioned a couple of times here and in the title of the episode, and that's diversification. Guthrie's program is one of the better examples of a player who loves his work and knows that to be in a position to pursue it without having to deal with the kinds of disabling ups and downs that are typically associated with building a career as a musician, you need to create some kind of personal infrastructure to act as a buffer. Now, this idea of infrastructure may seem foreign to some in terms of managing a career, but it's really just some organized components that create income in one form or another. And it will absolutely be different for everyone. But the message is clear. Unless you are at the very top, and you have good management, whether it's you or somebody else, whatever that looks like, you ought to be thinking about this idea. And I know some say, but I just want to focus on being the best at what I do. And that means that's all I can do. And certainly lots of people have set out to do that, come hell or high water. The problem is, that's what most of them end up with in some form or another. And that doesn't help you get to your destination. And by the way, I'm not necessarily talking about just having a day job somewhere and pursuing your passion in your spare time. Usually that doesn't get you there either in most cases. Obviously, there are exceptions, but I'm talking generally here. So what's a better way to use your own infrastructure? Well, without getting deep into the weeds on this, one way to put it is that the more your financially supportive activities connect with or relate to the passion work you are pursuing, the easier it is to integrate those into your daily practice. It's not a hard and fast rule, and Guthrie is again a great example. He has a strong education component of his infrastructure that drives a steady income stream. He also has rental property that, while not necessarily related to his playing, is the kind of thing that integrates well with what he's doing. So it's compatible and works for him. The other thing I found interesting, and we seem to be on the same page with, and that is he doesn't really have a plan, but he does have a big picture view of how he sees his life and knows that as long as he moves in that direction, the pieces of the puzzle will fall into place. And clearly, that's the perfect cue for me to say what I always say at this point in the show. Stay positive, stay focused on your destination, but keep all your options open on how you're going to get there. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again on episode 45. And that's it for this episode of Guitar Business Radio. Thanks for being with us. You can stay tuned and stay in touch at guitarbusinessradio.com.